Hi, this is Lisa Torres from Access Homeopathy, and I would like to speak with you today about that 3-day pattern that I mentioned last week. The reason why I'd like to go on a little bit about it is because it is so prevalent, so important, and so helpful, and it's also relatively easy once you get the hang of it. So the idea is that when you experience or when you observe a symptom of any kind, then to think about what was going on 3 days ago. And generally speaking, of some type of an emotional or physical impact, either something that you're aware of and it wasn't a problem, but generally speaking, something that would have been, pretty big, but that you didn't pay a whole lot of attention to at the time. For example, one man resigned from his job, and he was quite anxious about that because it was a big thing. And then 3 days later, he had an automobile accident where he banged his knee, and specifically the knee which had to do with how am I going to move forward. And so then another example, in addition to the other ones that I spoke with about in the last video, there's an altercation between a husband and a wife, and then 3 days later the wife feels certain pains. 3 days later the husband experiences certain symptoms. That happens frequently. Colds. Whenever you feel a cold, look back 3 days from the day of onset. You're looking at the day and sometimes even the time of onset. At 72 hours, sometimes it can be a little bit sooner, especially if it's a bigger impact thing. Colds, when they come onset in the morning with the throat, oftentimes you're looking at Lachesis as a remedy, and a feeling of not having done something quite right, like you wish you would have done something else or said something else in that situation. However, you also have colds that are like head colds and fogginess, sinus congestion. 3 days back, look and see, and there might be some type of a grief event. And those are usually NATMER related. So it's like putting all these things together. Another one, mom found out that the daughter was going somewhere and got a migraine. When was it? It was 3 days after she'd heard the news, and it was grief related. Other things, baby gets fever. What was going on 3 days before? They had some ear pain. It was treated, ears were fine, but baby gets fever. And so you're looking back, what was going on a couple of days before then? Same thing in classrooms. Children, there might be night urination or urination during the day at school. Go back 3 days and see what was going on. Same thing with the elderly. Those are the most, ones where you have the urination. Go back 3 days. Oftentimes there's something where they felt like they weren't treated right. Doesn't mean that it was the case, but it certainly has how they felt, and it's important to realize that. Another case, mom goes and is feeling overwhelmed by something. 3 days later, you've got a headache. Or in another case, the child fell and banged his head, and so it was the child expressing that feeling of being overwhelmed by mom and needing kind of like a knock on the head. There's so many, I'm just looking at notes here, so many examples of that 3-day pattern. So if you have any questions about it, observe in your own life, take a look back 3 days, and send me any questions or examples, and have a wonderful day. I hope this has been helpful.